Ladies and gentlemen, boys and berries, it's a lame joke, but it's a kindergarten joke, and that's where we're going. My first graduation was from kindergarten. This was the Tiny Tot Kindergarten in Houston, Texas, not to be confused with any current place of that name. And it was a 2-year institution. Now, they didn't have a traditional graduation, but then when you're 4 and 5, you don't know what tradition is anyway, so it didn't matter. No caps and gowns and diplomas. What they had was they had an outdoor wooden stage, and the little tots would get up and we would walk around the stage, and the proud parents sitting in their folding chairs under the live oak trees would applaud and cheer the fact that their children could be trained. This was a validation that they had actually spawned something that could function outside the home. And they were very happy about that. As that time came around the first year, the pageant coordinator, or whatever she was called, gave my mother patterns and fabric to make my costume, because in those days mothers sewed. And what she made was an elf costume. All the first year students were going to be elves. And it was a grass green costume made of oilcloth. So it was all shiny, and got shorts, a little pullover top, and most importantly, we had like a court jester hat with the big horns and the little sleigh bells on the end. And why you would put a child in such an outfit, it's because of the sleepless nights and the teething and the poopy diapers. It's legal revenge. You can get away with that. Make your kid ridiculous, take his pictures, and you can embarrass him for years. It's wonderful. So that's what we did. We put us in the elves, and we spent a couple weeks rehearsing, got up on the stage. Supposed to be, I guess, kind of like a dance. We were really kind of half walking, half skipping, went around in a few circles, and then we sat down on the edge of the stage. And then came the upperclassmen. These seniors at Tiny Tot came out, dressed as cowboys and cowgirls, and they did a little square dance. And I remember sitting there and looking at them and thinking, I get to do that next year. It was exciting. But, and then even more so, if you ask a kid today, would they prefer to be an elf or a cowboy? I think most of them would still say it. And I was in Texas. And this was the 1950s when they were rerunning all those cowboy movies from the 30s and 40s on TV. I mean, it was the golden age of John Wayne and Gene Autry and Roy Rogers and Tex Ritter and Sunset Carson and Hopalong Cassidy and Johnny Mac Brown. And can you name an elf? All right? So of course that's what I wanted to do. But it was a year away. And when you're 4 years old, that's 25% of your lifetime. It's way beyond the horizon, you see? And a lot of things can happen. And now I want to ask you, if you can remember here, when you're a small child and you meet a new adult for the first time, they generally ask you one of two stupid questions, sometimes both. First one is, what do you want to be when you grow up? I mean, I don't have plans for when I'm 6. but I did have an answer. Now, cowboy wasn't the answer because cowboys are on TV and they're black and white. They're, it's all fantasy. But there was one profession that I saw performed by men on a regular basis. So that was it. I wanted to be a garbage man. I mean, really, these guys got to cruise the neighborhood, hanging on the outside of the trucks. And this macho picking up the cans and dumping it, and nobody cared if they got dirty. I mean, how cool is that? It was great. So that was my answer to that. Now, the second question was, do you have a girlfriend? Right? And again, at 5, yeah. But it was also a very easy question to answer, because when you're 5, you just think of a girl you like, and voila. You see, it's not until years later that she has to be aware of the fact that she's your girlfriend. That's when it all gets complicated. But so in my class, there was a girl, Jeannie, with the light brown hair, who was there, and she had her hair was, I think, in retrospect, she must have gotten a perm, because it was all curly around the bottom. And he was just the cutest thing ever to step into Mary Jane's, and I thought she was great. So, but there was a problem, because she didn't know I existed. And that's because, see, I was assigned to the craft table over here, and she was assigned to the craft table over there. I mean, it was at least 5 feet away. And when we went outside, she would play with the girls, and I would play with the boys. And it was an insurmountable gulf, you see, between us. And it didn't bother me overly much. From time to time, when they would put the whole class together for some activity, I would look around to see if maybe I would get thrown together with Jeannie at some point and get to know her. She would get to know me, or say hello or something. Anyway, but it never happened. And then finally, as the year came toward an end, I realized that we would do a square dance in which everybody changes partners, right? So I would have a chance to impress her with my fancy cowboy dance moves. I mean, I didn't have any, but I assumed I would have by the time we got there. And that's when fate reared its ugly head. My parents, without consulting me, had decided we were going to move at the end of the school year. So my mother, who was busy packing, called the pageant coordinator and said she did not have time to make me a cowboy costume. And because I love my mother, I would like to think that they discussed a number of options before finally deciding, well, he's got an elf costume already. So, for a couple weeks there, I was the only senior boy who had to rehearse with the little kids in sort of a remedial elfing. But as it turned out, Jeannie, with the light brown hair, did not do the square dance either, you see. She got a solo spot, the only one. I was the only one who got left back. She was the only one who got a solo spot in that final pageant. And she came out in a little fairy princess prom dress type thing and stood there and she sang her little heart out. There is a photograph of her standing in the center of the stage singing, and me sitting on the edge of the stage as a leftover elf. And it was sort of, you know, like the Alpha and Omega, the Princess and the Frog, two ships that would never pass in the night. And the lesson I got out of all this, you see, is that we did move. I never saw any of those kids again. Nobody ever had to remind me that I was a left back elf. So that the lesson, which took a little time to formulate into words, was that you can walk away from humiliation and embarrassment. You can reinvent yourself and tell a new story with a new audience. Thank you.